Welcome to the Forge Your Future podcast, brought to you by East Central Educational Service Center, located in Newcastle, Indiana. We proudly provide service support and collaboration to 14 counties and 39 member districts.
At ECESC, we believe that students' strengths and interests are a blueprint to forging a future of success and impact, and we are on a journey to provide support and collaboration to schools as they implement career-connected learning for all students.
As part of this mission, we are here today to celebrate the amazing educators who help the students of East Central Indiana dream big dreams and achieve more than they thought possible.
Their work inspires us each day, and we want to lift up their stories and the stories of the students they are impacting and serving.
Hello, and welcome to the Forge Your Future podcast. My name is Lindsey, Instructional Specialist and Grant Coordinator at East Central Educational Service Center. Today, we are excited to be joined by Jennifer Teague, an English teacher at Rushville HIgh School. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We are so excited in this series to be talking to more classroom educators, and so glad to have you on this morning. As we get started, if you could just tell us a little bit about you. Tell us what you teach. I already said you're at Rushville, but if you want to say anything else about the school, a little bit about your professional background, and then your why, like what brings you to school every day, what keeps your passion for the profession.
Okay. Well, yeah, as you said, I teach at RCHS, and I teach mostly dual credit courses in the English world, but I also have some general level English 11 as well. I have taught pretty much every English offering speech. I do dual credit speech as well throughout my career, that 7 through 12 that exists. I also taught theater for a while for the first 7 years. So lots of English throughout my history. I started my career on the Navajo Reservation in Pinon, Arizona, and stayed there for 4.5 years and have moved around Indiana since. I've been at in Bloomington, Greensburg, Tell City, Shelbyville, and am now here. And I've loved everywhere I've been. I am really passionate about just the kids and getting to know them and knowing their areas and what goes into making them who they are. My why for teaching has sort of evolved throughout my career. When I started, it was I don't know, I was one of those kids who was a little rough when I was younger, and I had a third grade teacher, Mrs. McCarty. Shout out to Mrs. McCarty. She was the first teacher to make me feel that I was like I could do it. I was worth something, and I wanted to help other kids have that feeling. So I wanted to hopefully be a safe space for some kids and motivate them. And I have just been really passionate about wanting to help kids grow throughout my career. So I used to work primarily with like struggling learners and have a huge passion there. And then when I realized about midway through my career, I guess, we were sending kids to college and they could be a little bit more prepared, I became pretty passionate about making sure that they were ready. So I started my dual credit path, got my master's in English language and literature, and have been teaching dual credit ever since. But I'm really passionate about making sure that kids can think critically, think for themselves, but have that intuitive like gut response to think critically and seek out perspectives different than their own to better understand the world around them and not just the content at hand. But I just want kids to be better thinkers. So that's probably my biggest why these days.
Yeah, that was such a great story. There's so many different directions we could go to unpack a little bit about that. I love what you said about your initial why coming from your childhood experience. I think that's really common for teachers to be inspired by a specific teacher. And thank you for shouting out your third grade teacher. We love that. But then also like now getting into that idea of making sure your students are future ready. And that comes with like specific academic content, but that also comes with just big picture. Can you interact in the world? Are you prepared? Can you talk a little bit about what you do in your classroom to enhance critical thinking, to bring in multiple perspectives, those pieces that you talked about as being so important?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think the most frequent way that I do that, or the most impactful, I guess, is just discussion and having the kids talk, but not just in a haphazard, how I feel about XYZ, but in a truly collaborative, interactive, actually listening and responding, not waiting to react. We work on that quite a bit. And I start all of my classes with some of the same pieces. I think they're so important. Adichie's Danger of a Single Story. And she talks about how, like one of my favorite quotes, the problem with stereotypes is not necessarily that they're not true, but that they're incomplete. And we really spend a lot of time, I could talk about this forever, I'm sorry, but we spend a lot of time really trying to think about ourselves and our own identity spaces, and then how that impacts our communicating with other people and our interpretations of the world. So we front load a lot of that. We spend the first few weeks just thinking about thinking and our individual roles in thinking about all of the external stimuli. But yeah, interactive conversation. And then I really credit the dual credits speech class that I teach. The curriculum in there it pushes kids to think about like these inherent hegemonic perspectives that are so ingrained in society that we don't question them. So I try to bring that into all of my classes to a degree, because I just want kids to question everything. And I even tell them, like, don't just listen to me because I'm the teacher and I'm the authority figure in the room. Like, I want you to come up with your own interpretations and responses. So yeah, sorry. So to recap, we do so much interactive speaking activities with each other, and intentional in that.
Yeah. How do you see students responding to that have maybe been brought up in a more online virtual space? Do they have trouble with the discussion? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's we're in it right now because we're in week 2. Some of the classes just sort of naturally jump into it, but then others, it is a stretch. We had yesterday, one class was great with it, and the second class, it was crickets. But how I approach that is tons of scaffolding. So from day one, I have them up out of their seats, and we're just doing silly little impromptu, silly little activities. But they know from day one, like, okay, so this teacher's actually going to make me talk, and I'm not going to let them get away with not talking. So when we do the discussions and there are lulls, I explain to the kids, you're used to a certain way of thinking, and that's where your brain is safe. And I'll ask them, I'll have them do an activity, and if I'm not getting, quite the thinking that I want, I'll stop and say, okay, describe exactly how you're feeling right now. And I'll get out of them that physical, that outward expression of anxiety and how their bodies are reacting to it. And we'll talk about, I'm just very open and honest with the kids. Your brain is sending distress signals to your body right now because you're not used to this. But if we fight through that and we wait and we just keep pushing, you'll get over that hump. And the end product will be way better than it would have been if you just trusted your gut response, So we talk through those moments, and I try to make my classroom a safe space to do that. But a ton of scaffolding, tiny little activities that build and build and build, trying to build the kids' confidence as well. And I do give them in the beginning, guided questions to stimulate their thinking as they do their readings, and target, like a certain path for analysis. But I encourage and praise all of their analysis in the class discussions, and try to use whatever they bring to the table as a teachable moment so that it can help them feel, like, okay, well, even if this isn't what everybody else was thinking, it's still safe to say it. You know what I mean? So just a lot of support, I think, in the classroom to make it possible.
Well, you really hit on a couple of very important classroom best practices there, because I heard you say you're not going to let them get away with not talking. You have high expectations for how they're going to participate. And then you said you also talked about brain science and working through some things, starting slow and building. So you're having those high expectations while recognizing the human side. And I think that's really important to highlight, because that can be a tough one to get right. The whole brain thinking can be hard to explain if it feels like, oh, we're going to sit around and talk about our feelings. And it can feel a little like less academic in that moment, right? I love how you described how you use that to draw out better critical thinking. So that's really cool. And I feel like I would be remiss in this moment in time if I didn't also ask about AI and your thoughts and ideas about how that tool plays into what you're talking about, the world of critical thinking, multiple perspectives, and future readiness. What are you thinking and feeling in that space right now?
I'm not sure how to sum that up because I am so, I don't want to necessarily use the word conflicted, but intrigued and cautious and want to make sure my kids are prepared. So I think there are major positives with AI, and there are some scary moments, and not that I'm afraid of AI, that's not what I mean, but I don't want my kids to become reliant upon it. So, like, overly so to where they are using AI as their voices instead of their own. And I think you'll probably hear that from every English teacher, but it can be a tool. So I'm, again, like, I'm really honest with the kids. I mean, my kids are in these college classes, they're still high school students, and I tell them all the time, like, obviously the content's important and they do grow and they are stellar thinkers by the end and they can write awesome essays. But I also say, like, my goal in the advanced composition course, for example, like the dual credit composition course, is to get you ready to be a college student. So because our content isn't literature, it's all content areas you should be able to think and write about. So I'm honest and I say, if you are in college, I'm not there with you, and you get stuck and you need, a boost, you can start with your own ideas and you can use AI to assist in the development of those ideas. But at the end of the day, it needs to be your thinking that goes into whatever the product is. So I'm not opposed to using it as a tool. But we talk a lot in here about like just yesterday, I pulled up the news media bias chart from the Pew Research Center just randomly because of where the conversation went when we were analyzing a text. But in talking about AI and biases that exist in the world, and the kids were bringing up how now it's so difficult to even tell sometimes if a source is even real, and shared examples of when they had believed a source that they found out to be fake, and the dangers of when we just accept something as truth without questioning it. So I think we can use it as a great tool to encourage even further critical thinking when we're talking about like reading AI generated materials or seeing that sort of stuff in the world. And I know I'm all over the place here. I think this is just such a massive topic. When it comes to writing, I tell the kids, in here that I would rather, I know they're insecure about their writing skills and their grammar and their word choice, but I would rather hear their voices than the automated response created by the computer that looks pretty but lacks substance. So I don't know if I'm answering your question well, but I do in my writing classes, I put with the kids, I'll plug in a prompt on the screen into ChatGPT or whatever AI generator I can do, and we'll go through different versions that it makes and why, like, what about it is helpful and then what about it is not, and their products could be better, and we critique the essays and stuff. So I try to bring it in a realistically applicable way. But I think it is a mountain of a topic to tackle, and just as educators talking about it, let alone with the students.
Yes, absolutely. But I think you hit on something that some people listening might want to take away, in that I heard you say you're motivating your students to make sure that their own voice is still heard, even if they're using the tool. And I think that's a great motivator, a great way to make it relevant. Like, don't let this, take credit for your idea, or don't let this quiet your voice. Because I think you hear a lot, especially in terms of English, concern about academic dishonesty and those type of pieces that are a little more conventional, rigid, which, not that those aren't important, but obviously, I think students know their teachers don't want them to cheat. That's a more obvious conversation to have. But what you brought up is, no, I want to hear your perspective. I want to hear your voice, even if your work's imperfect. So thank you so much for sharing that. What is your personal definition of student success? And do you have any examples from your recent years of teaching of a student, without saying, personal information, that is something that you would want to celebrate?
Yeah, I have so many examples. So that's why we do this, right? And I'm getting like the warm fuzzy feelings just trying to think about them. Um, but I think student success is different. I think it depends on every single kid. Every single kid has their own version of what success is to them. I think in the short, it is for me seeing growth in any way. It could be content related, personal behavior, like all of anything. And last year, I had a student she was with me for the dual credit composition and then second semester for dual credit speech. And she had never been in an English honors class before, but fantastic thinker, just didn't believe that she was capable. And she had pretty limited, and this is not a judgment space, it just is, but a limited perspective on the world. We're in a geographically isolated area. And if the kids are not exposed to opportunities to see beyond what they're presented with here, they don't have those opportunities. So, or that ability to see. So anyway, sorry, in short, through that class, she shifted not only behaviorally, but academically. And the cool part about it was that at the end of the school year, she recognized how much she had grown and changed and was able to talk about it. So that was awesome. And I wish you could have just experienced that with me. But just 2 days ago, this is my most recent favorite. I have a student in one of my general level English 11 classes. He was born into a very tough situation and has every odds stacked against him possible, and has been expelled previous years in his education. And he carries around that reputation everywhere he goes. And I was one of those, I mean, I was never expelled or anything, but I was a kid as a child in this community labeled because of familial situations. And I know that many of my kids are carrying that baggage with them and they didn't even create it. So I love this student, but he, having been expelled in the past and not doing well academically, not a ton of credits, he performed in the top 4 on the pre-assessment for English 11. I use an SAT pre-assessment just to get a baseline. And he was so proud of himself. And it was this quiet, just kind of looking at me from his computer screen. And it gives me goosebumps to think about. But that was a really big day. And I immediately contacted his TOR and said, this kid did this, and praised him in the hallway. It's just, I love those moments. And I think those seemingly small moments have such a huge ripple effect for those kids. So
that could have changed his entire junior year.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what he does. And I think we as teachers, we get to see moments like that all the time. And, there's no replacement for that. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's focus a little bit more on students. We'll zoom out just a little bit, big picture. In your position, you have a closer glimpse than most of the rest of us at what our future leaders are going to be like, what the future holds, right? Because you have those people in your classroom every day. So what can you tell us? What sneak peek can you give us into what we can expect in the coming years as these folks become adults and part of our communities?
Yeah. I'm excited, genuinely. I have so much faith in these kids. And I know people sometimes assume and stereotype teenagers as a certain way. But I can tell you honestly, in my classes, it might take a little bit to get them to be conversational and have these big ideas, but they're eager. And when they realize that they can, they have these spaces and these platforms where they can think outside the box and see outside of themselves and interact with others, they can create some really cool end products. And I think we are in for a generation who can, I think, help bring together what we have as a pretty divisive society right now. I think these kids are eager to see beyond even just their own opinions, even if they don't agree with what another person is saying. These students in my classrooms, they want to understand the why behind the other person's opinion, and they can come to some sort of common ground. And I love that. I think that we will hopefully see more of that as these kids grow and become the leaders in our society. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So some curiosity, creativity.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And a willingness to do the work.
That makes me look forward to seeing that come alive too. Thank you. Okay, so I've got some quick kind of lightning round questions for you to kind of wrap up. What do you think is your teaching superpower?
I think mine is just being able to relate to kids. I just think I can relate to kids and they feel safe in my classroom. So that helps me. It goes a long way.
Yeah, well, that's step one, right? Sense of belonging before anything else is possible in those areas of growth. Okay, tell us something you wish everyone knew about teachers.
I think we're all very different, but I think we all genuinely are doing the absolute best that we can with whatever we have. And I don't think everyone sees that all the time, because this is such an emotional job and we are so emotionally invested in what we do. And we think what we're doing is right a lot of the time. So I don't know. I just wish everybody knew how much we cared. And yeah. I don't think we all see that all the time.
Yeah. Your kids see it though.
I hope so.
Okay. And then this is, no matter who's on the podcast, this is the last question that we always ask. And that is, what are you recommending right now? And this can be anything, personal, professional, pop culture related, it doesn't matter. What would you be excited to share with your friends and tell them about?
I think everyone should watch Love on the Spectrum on Netflix. I really do. I think it's helped me become a better teacher. It's helped my kids, my own children. I have 3 children. It's helped them become better people, just more understanding. And that might sound weird, but I love that show. And then my nerdy teacher response, I think all teachers should read Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and Mike Rose's Lives on the Boundary, James Paul G's Identity Discourse essays, and anything Geneva Smitherman. Put it all together. I think every teacher on the planet should read all of those things and just put them together and apply the ideas there.
Okay. I might have to have you send me that list so we can put it in the notes with our podcasts, and then everyone can do their English homework. I was was on the tip of my tongue when you said a Netflix show to say what about books? English, you have a book. I was going to ask you for a book, and then you gave me 6.
Yeah,
so
I could give you a ton of books, but
yes, that's perfect. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for the conversation today. I'm really excited to get this out into the world because there's a couple things that you said that I think are really going to resonate. And just, the opportunity that I have to work with multiple schools, I see, some common themes and similar challenges and opportunities across. And so very excited to get your voice heard and also share it with some other folks that are in a similar space that I know will appreciate it. So thank you again, Jennifer.
Thank you. I appreciate this. This was fun. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Forge Your Future podcast. We hope that this glimpse into the bright future of East Central Indiana inspires you and brings you hope.
We have the privilege to work with these future makers every day and want to share their stories throughout Indiana and beyond.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it with your circle and let's keep the conversation going.
You can connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on our website.
Until next time, remember that your strengths and interests are a blueprint to your future of success and impact.